Hello everyone, welcome back to the part 2 of volume expanders. Today we will continue with our colloid and crystalloid compartments. So we'll start with the blood products. These are the only fluids which have the capability of carrying oxygen, and they increases the tissue oxygenation, increases the plasma volume, but are expensive and least available fluids because they require human donors. However, they increases the oncotic pressure and the plasma volume. They pull the fluid from extravascular space into the intravascular space, and RBC products are also oxygen carrying. They increases the body supply of various products such as clotting factors and hemoglobin. So this is how they increases the oncotic pressure and volume. There are various blood products available like cryoprecipitate and plasma protein factors. They are used in the management of acute bleeding in which greater than 50% slow blood loss or 20% acutely takes place. It could be because of any accidental condition or traumatic conditions. Then is fresh frozen plasma, which is used to increase the clotting factor levels in the patient with demonstrated deficiency of these clotting factors. Then we have the packed red blood cells and the whole blood. They are used to increase the oxygen carrying capacity in patients with anemia, substantial hemoglobin deficiency. Packed RBCs are used for the blood loss up to 25% of the total blood volume, and the whole blood is used for blood loss over 25% of the total blood volume as well. The adverse effects are also associated with the blood products, like incompatibility with the recipient's immune system, because everyone has different blood group. So we should take care of it before using the blood products. Then transfusion reactions, anaphylactic shock, and transmission of pathogen to recipients like hepatitis and HIV. So we have to take care while taking the blood products from these donors. Then come down to the electrolytes. Principal extracellular fluid electrolytes comprised of sodium cations and chloride cations, and intracellular fluid electrolytes are potassium. Other than that, we have calcium, magnesium and phosphorus. So let us start with the intracellular one, that is potassium. It is most abundantly positively charged electrolyte inside the cell, and 95% of the body potassium is intracellular. Potassium content is outside of the cell ranges from 3.5 to 5 milliequivalent per liter. Basically, outside the cell surface, there is the abundance of sodium and calcium ions. Potassium levels are critical to normal body function because they are protective in nature and are correspond to the relaxing effect of vessels. Potassiums are obtained from foods like fruits and juices of bananas, oranges, apricots, dates, broccoli, tomatoes. They are also present in meats, fish, wheat bread and legumes. Excess of dietary potassium exert via kidneys. They impaired the kidney function, leads to higher serum levels and possibly the toxicity occurs. That is the condition of hyperkalemia, in which excessive serum potassium level increases more to the threshold level, and potassium supplements, ACE inhibitors, renal failure, excessive loss from the cells, potassium sparing diuretics, burns, trauma, metabolic acidosis, and infections like conditions, they tend to increase the intercellular potassium ion levels. Hypokalemia is the deficiency of potassium, basically less than 3.5 milliequivalent. So excessive potassium loss rather than poor dietary intake takes place due to the alkalosis, corticosteroids, crash diets, diarrhea and ketoacidosis, along with the large amount of consumption of licorice also leads to hypokalemia-like conditions. Hypokalemia in presence of digoxin therapy can cause digoxin toxicity, which results in the serious ventricular dysarrhythmias. This is the major contraindication to be taken care of. Then potassium is also responsible for muscle contraction and relaxation phase, in which potassium means the relaxation phase, and transmission of nerve impulses, regulation of heartbeat, maintenance of acid-base balance, isotonicity, and some other important functions of body are regulated by potassiums. The main indication for potassium is the treatment or prevention of potassium depletion when dietary means are inadequate. Adverse effects includes diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and gastrointestinal bleeding and ulceration when we use the oral preparation of potassium. If IV administration is there, then it can lead to pain at the injection site, and phlebitis means the swelling of the vein in which the injection has been given. And excessive administration leads to toxic effects and hyperkalemia-like conditions. Hyperkalemia-like conditions, they show the symptoms of muscle weakness, paralysis, rhythm irregularities, and ventricular fibrillation or cardiac arrest is at the severe period. And the treatment for the hyperkalemia is to introduce intravenously sodium bicarbonate, calcium salts, and dextrose with insulin. Also, sodium polystyrene sulfonate or hemodialysis is to be implemented to remove the excess potassium from the body. Next electrolyte, which is very important, is sodium, and it is most abundantly present in the body outside the cell. And normal concentration outside the cell should be 135 to 145 milliequivalent per liter, and they have to be maintained through the dietary intake of sodium chloride in the form of salt, fish, meat, food flavored or preservatives with the salts. Hyponatremia is a condition of the loss of sodium from the body below 135 milliequivalent of per liter, and the symptoms of hyponatremia are lethargy, fatigue, weakness, stomach cramps, decreased BP, vomiting, diarrhea, and sometimes seizures occur. The main cause is associated with the or correspond with the hypokalemia causes, like excessive perspiration during hot weather or physical work can lead to hyponatremia, loss of sodium ions in the form of sweat, and prolonged diarrhea or vomiting or renal disorders may also aggravate the condition of hyponatremia. Hypernatremia is contrary to hyponatremia, like it is opposite, where the sodium ion levels gets exceeded up. The symptoms of these are water retention, edema like conditions, fluids start depositing around the ankles, on the hands, legs, etc., which increases ultimately the blood pressure in the body. Red flushed skin, dry sticky mucous membranes, increased thirst, elevated temperature, and decreased urine output are some other symptoms to be taken care of during hypernatremia-like condition. The main causes are poor renal excretion or kidney malfunctioning, and inadequate water consumption or dehydration, excessive dehydration. Sodium basically is responsible for the control of water distribution, fluid and electrolyte balance, osmotic pressure of body fluid because it is present outside the compartment, and participation in acid-base balance. They are indicated in the treatment or prevention of sodium depletion when dietary measures are inadequate. Under mild conditions, the patient should be treated with oral sodium chloride and in severe condition they should be treated with intravenous normal saline or lactated finger solution. Adverse effects associated with sodium are nausea, vomiting and cramps due to oral administration, and due to intravenous administration venous phlebitis may occur. Now the dextrans. Dextran is basically a polysaccharide obtained from the sugar beet, which is available in two forms, dextran 70 and dextran 40, and what they are: effective plasma volume expander due to colloid osmotic effect. The specific gravity is slightly greater than the blood, and they are broken down enzymatically to dextranase and excreted in urine. These are some preparations of dextran: 150, 110, 70, 60 and 40, where in 70 dextran 76% of dextran is available, and in 40 10% solution in dextran or saline to 540 ml is to be introduced during the time of need. Then is HETA starch. HETA starch is basically hydroxyl ethyl starch, or we can also say it as HES. 6% in 0.9% sodium chloride injection. For intravenous use only it is recommended. It is a complex mixture of ethoxylated amylopectin of various molecular sizes, and the colloidal properties of 6% HETA starch are approximately those to the human albumin. So the plasma volume expands slightly in excess of the volume infused, and hemodynamic status is improved within 24 hours, or it may take more time. However, the adverse effects associated with HETA starch is that vomiting, mild fever, itching, chills or flu-like symptoms. They do not to be introduced additives into the container when we mix HETA starch with sodium chloride injection. There are some important points to be taken care of when we introduce any kind of plasma volume expanders. Those are: administer the colloids slowly, monitor the fluid overload and the possibilities of heart failure. For blood products, follow the administration procedures closely. Monitor closely the signs of transfusion reactions, especially in case of blood products. Monitor the therapeutic response, normal laboratory analytical values, improvement of fluid volume status, increased tolerance to activities, and also monitor the adverse effects, which is very important. So that is all about the plasma volume expanders. Thank you so much.